On June 13, 2025, a date that will forever be etched in the annals of history, the long-simmering shadow war between Iran and Israel, a conflict characterized by covert operations and proxy battles, finally erupted into open, direct conflict. Decades of tension, mistrust, and veiled aggression reached a boiling point, shattering the fragile peace that had precariously held the region together. Israel struck swiftly and decisively, targeting Iran's most critical military bases, strategic infrastructure, and most alarmingly, its nuclear facilities, in a calculated and meticulously planned assault designed to cripple Iran's ability to retaliate and project power. The strikes were surgical, precise, and devastating. The United States, a staunch ally of Israel, immediately declared its unwavering support, while Iran, isolated but defiant, quickly rallied support from its allies, most notably the Houthis in Yemen, who pledged to stand by Tehran in its hour of need. The region, already fraught with instability, was instantly engulfed in chaos, as long-standing rivalries and simmering tensions boiled over into open hostility. Israel's opening attacks included a series of highly targeted assassinations, eliminating top Iranian military commanders, key nuclear scientists vital to their program, and influential politicians, effectively crippling Iran's leadership and sowing confusion within its ranks. Tehran, reeling from the initial strikes, vowed swift and terrible revenge, immediately launching Operation Severe Punishment, a large-scale retaliatory campaign. Hundreds of Iranian ballistic missiles, a terrifying display of military might, rained down on Israel, overwhelming its defenses and causing widespread panic. The sheer volume of the attack was designed to overwhelm Israel's vaunted air defenses, particularly the Iron Dome system. Air raid sirens blared incessantly across Israeli cities, a chilling soundtrack to the unfolding crisis, as fiery explosions lit up the night sky, turning the darkness into an inferno. The conflict quickly expanded beyond the borders of Iran and Israel, drawing in other regional actors and escalating the crisis to a dangerous new level. The Houthis, true to their word, began threatening vital shipping lanes in the Red Sea, launching their own attacks against ships and strategic targets in the region, further destabilizing the already volatile situation. The U.S. military presence in the region, already substantial, was further augmented, bringing even more advanced weaponry and firepower to Israel's side, signaling a clear message of deterrence to Iran and its allies. The war was rapidly evolving, no longer just a bilateral conflict between two nations. It had become a full-blown regional firestorm, threatening to engulf the entire Middle East in a devastating conflagration. Every action triggered a swift and often unpredictable reaction, escalating the cycle of violence, raising the terrifying risk of an uncontrollable escalation that could have catastrophic consequences for the entire world. The Middle East, a region already known for its volatility, became a tinderbox, primed to explode at any moment, with complex webs of alliances and deep-seated enmities colliding in a dangerous and unpredictable manner. The world watched with growing alarm as news of the escalating conflict spread across the globe, fearing the outbreak of a much larger, potentially global war, a nightmare scenario that had haunted international relations for decades. The stakes had never been higher, with the fate of the region, and perhaps the world, hanging in the balance. The first hours of the conflict set the tone for what was to come, a dangerous mix of precision military strikes, widespread chaos and destruction, and the very real possibility of an unprecedented catastrophe. The war's opening salvos made it abundantly clear to everyone involved. No one, whether directly involved or not, would be left untouched by the far-reaching consequences of this devastating conflict. The entire region braced itself, preparing for what could very well become the most dangerous and destructive conflict to erupt in the Middle East in decades, a conflict with the potential to reshape the geopolitical landscape for generations to come. The world held its breath, anxiously awaiting what the next hours, days, and weeks would bring. Israel's leadership, spearheaded by Prime Minister Netanyahu, found itself at a critical juncture. The weight of national security rested heavily on their shoulders as they navigated the treacherous waters of international conflict. They moved decisively, understanding the gravity of the situation and the need for swift action. Every decision was meticulously calculated, every move strategically planned. Coordinating closely with military chiefs, they began formulating a plan to strike at Iran's core capabilities. The objective was clear: to neutralize the threat emanating from Tehran. Their ultimate goal was to cripple Iran's military and nuclear ambitions, dismantling their capacity to wage war and develop weapons of mass destruction. This had to be done before Iran could retaliate, before they could unleash their own arsenal upon Israel and its allies. The element of surprise was crucial. In Iran, Supreme Leader Khamenei and the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, took command, assuming full control of the nation's defense. They began orchestrating Operation Severe Punishment, a meticulously planned response to what they perceived as Israeli aggression. The IRGC's experienced commanders, seasoned veterans of past conflicts, led Iran's response, bringing their expertise to bear on the unfolding crisis. This was all happening even as Israeli strikes killed several top officials, dealing a significant blow to Iran's leadership. The strikes also claimed the lives of key nuclear scientists, individuals vital to Iran's nuclear program. The loss of these leaders severely disrupted Iran's command structure, creating a void at the highest levels of government. This all sowed confusion at a critical moment, hindering Iran's ability to respond effectively to the escalating crisis. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump, known for his unwavering support of Israel, threw America's full support behind the Jewish state. He went so far as to authorizing direct strikes on Iranian nuclear sites, a move that significantly escalated the conflict. Trump's direct involvement added global weight to the conflict, transforming it from a regional dispute into an international crisis. This amplified its stakes, drawing in other nations and raising the specter of a wider war. The targeted assassinations and bombings, carried out with precision and ruthlessness, sent shockwaves through Iran's leadership, leaving them reeling from the unexpected attacks. Both sides faced immense pressure, both internally and externally, as the world watched with bated breath. Each leader knew their decisions would shape the region's future, determining the course of history for generations to come. The war's opening days were defined by bold moves, audacious strikes, and a willingness to take calculated risks. They were also defined by high-level casualties, the loss of key figures on both sides of the conflict. The world's most powerful leaders were now locked in a deadly game of geopolitical chess, each move carrying immense consequences. The outcome was anything but certain, hanging precariously in the balance as the world braced itself for what was to come. In a move that reverberated across the globe, Israel and the U.S. launched a meticulously coordinated bombing campaign. This joint operation, years in the planning, aimed to neutralize a threat that both nations deemed unacceptable. The target, Iran's sprawling and deeply entrenched nuclear infrastructure. The strikes were surgical, designed to inflict maximum damage while minimizing collateral impact. American airstrikes, utilizing the latest in precision-guided munitions, hit Fordow, a key enrichment site buried deep beneath the mountains. The underground facility, once thought impenetrable, was breached with devastating effect. Natanz, the heart of Iran's centrifuge program, and Isfahan, a critical research and development hub, were also targeted in the coordinated assault. The result was a crippling blow to the very heart of Iran's nuclear program, leaving key facilities in ruins and its nuclear ambitions severely hampered. President Trump, in a televised address, declared the sites obliterated, emphasizing the decisive nature of the operation. His words were intended as a clear message of strength and resolve, not only to allies seeking reassurance but also to adversaries contemplating similar actions. Iranian officials, initially defiant, soon admitted that the damage was indeed severe, acknowledging the effectiveness of the strikes. Satellite imagery and on-the-ground assessments later confirmed the extent of the destruction, leaving no doubt about the operation's success. The attacks had successfully disrupted Iran's ability to enrich uranium, a critical step in the development of nuclear weapons. This setback effectively pushed back its nuclear ambitions by years, buying valuable time for diplomatic efforts and further strategic planning. U.S. officials confidently claimed that the campaign had effectively eliminated Iran's near-term nuclear threat, at least for the foreseeable future. The strikes also served as a powerful demonstration of a new level of military cooperation and strategic alignment. This was a clear message of unity between Israel and the U.S., solidifying their commitment to regional security. Predictably, Iran's response was furious, marked by public outrage and vows of retaliation. However, despite the fiery rhetoric, its nuclear program was left in smoldering ruins, a stark reminder of the consequences of its ambitions. The world took notice, watching with bated breath as the events unfolded. The message was unmistakable. The the US and Israel were prepared to act decisively, even unilaterally, to prevent a nuclear-armed Iran. The cost of the operation, both in terms of resources and potential repercussions, was undoubtedly high. But the message sent was undeniably clear and resolute, a demonstration of unwavering resolve. The region's delicate balance of power had shifted overnight, ushering in a new era of uncertainty and strategic calculations. The war's escalation carried profound global implications, raising concerns about proliferation and regional stability. The nuclear clock had been set back, offering a temporary reprieve from the immediate threat. But the question remained, at what price had this victory been achieved, and what were the long-term consequences of this bold and risky gamble? The human toll was staggering. In Israel, 591 Iranian missiles killed 28 people and wounded over 3,400, despite advanced air defenses. Civilians lived in constant fear as sirens and explosions became daily realities. In Iran, the death toll soared even higher. Official numbers reported 627 killed, but independent groups estimated over 1,000 deaths, including hundreds of military personnel and commanders. The strikes devastated both military and civilian targets. Accurate casualty counts were elusive, but the suffering was undeniable. Families on both sides were shattered. The war's true cost was measured in lives lost and futures destroyed. The pain would linger long after the fighting stopped. The war left deep scars on both nations. In Israel, missile strikes forced 15,000 people from their homes, with entire neighborhoods reduced to rubble. The government scrambled to house the displaced, spending millions on emergency shelter. For many, normal life was gone, perhaps forever. In Iran, airstrikes obliterated key nuclear and military sites, erasing years of investment and scientific progress. The destruction extended beyond strategic targets, with nearby communities suffering collateral damage. The loss of infrastructure was a massive setback for Iran's ambitions. The devastation was not just physical, it tore apart families and communities. Both countries faced a long, uncertain road to recovery. The wounds of war would take years to heal. The economic fallout was immediate and severe. Israel's war costs soared, threatening to wipe out 20% of its GDP and pushing the nation toward financial crisis. Daily war spending reached $200 million, straining public services and the national budget. Iran faced similar pressures, with billions lost in destroyed infrastructure and lost oil revenue. The conflict sent oil prices surging, rattling global markets. Fears of a wider disruption pushed Brent crude from $72 to $78 per barrel overnight. Analysts warned that closing the Strait of Hormuz could trigger a global energy crisis. The war's economic shockwaves were felt far beyond the Middle East. The world economy was now hostage to the region's instability. Iran's nuclear program was the war's flashpoint. Israel and the US accused Iran of seeking a bomb. Iran insisted its program was peaceful. The strikes on Natanz, Fordow, and Isfahan aimed to destroy Iran's ability to enrich uranium. President Trump claimed total victory, saying Iran's nuclear threat was eliminated. US officials echoed this, citing the destruction of key facilities. Iran admitted severe damage but vowed to rebuild. The attack set back Iran's program, but its scientific expertise remained. The future of Iran's nuclear ambitions was now uncertain. The world was left to wonder. Had the threat truly been ended or merely delayed? The nuclear question remained unresolved. After 12 days of war, a fragile ceasefire was reached. Direct talks were impossible, so the US enlisted Qatar to mediate. Qatar's prime minister led tense negotiations with Iran, even after Iranian attacks on a US base in Qatar. Eventually, Iran agreed to halt hostilities. President Trump announced the ceasefire to the world, bringing relief but not resolution. The missile attacks and airstrikes stopped, but the underlying tensions remained. The ceasefire was a diplomatic achievement, but also a temporary pause. Qatar's role was crucial. Without a trusted mediator, peace would have been out of reach. The region remained on edge, with deep mistrust on all sides. The shooting had stopped, but true peace was still elusive. The world hoped the ceasefire would hold. The guns are silent, but the war's legacy endures. The ceasefire halted the violence, but the core issues remain unresolved. Both Israel and Iran face economic ruin and shattered infrastructure. Oil prices have spiked, affecting the world economy. The political landscape is forever changed. Direct war between Iran and Israel has set a dangerous precedent. U.S. military intervention has reshaped regional strategy. Trust is at an all-time low, and the risk of renewed conflict is high. The ceasefire is fragile, resting on fear, not reconciliation. The world waits to see if this is a pause or the prelude to something worse. To follow the next chapter in this high-stakes drama, subscribe for Part 2, Trump versus Iran.